Hello there guys and welcome to another edition of this series. I'm your host Not Belkalai and this is the EU4 Report.
EU Sports. It's in the game.
This week there have been several devastating wars resulting in many player deaths. But before we get to that, we need to look at the Ayutthaya-Malacca conflict. In an EU4 Report exclusive, we managed to get hold of some diplomatic messages between the two nations. To give you some context on this conflict, they are in the midst of a third war. Wars 1 and 2 were won by Malaya. However, there has been some controversy surrounding this, as Malaya has enlisted the help of Brunei, meaning Ayutthaya has been 1v2ing this entire time. This has led to incredibly hostile relations, with insults on both sides. In other news, the insult Ravenstarver has been used for the first time in 200 years. We reached out to both of them for a statement.
I asked the Himalayans, do they want total war?
I would like to settle peace with him, but he's a warmonger. I've been declared on free time.
Perhaps one day they'll figure out there's a world beyond Southeast Asia. This week, an apparent tier list document was released by the server. In a shock turn of events, the admin of the server, one of the main arbiters, and the current host are all in tier 1, with very modest epithets. I'd like to point out 2 question marks in the player ratings, which some might suggest invalidates this entire document, but I'll leave that up to you in the comments below. Now looking at one of the largest wars this session, we have Gujarat versus Hormuz. For some context behind this conflict, both of these nations make significant income from trade, and disagreements over this have spiraled into war. Gujarat, backed by Manchu and Punjab, declared on Hormuz, who is backed by Yemen and Persia. We've managed to obtain some exclusive footage of Hormuz rounding up allies for the war effort. After a year of fighting, tens of thousands of ducats being spent, and over 1 million dead, a white peace was signed. Here's Yemen with some thoughts on the war.
So I defended Hormuz, and Persia defended Hormuz for money, and we killed a shit ton of them, and then they eventually accepted a white peace after being pushed out of the mountains of Hormuz.
Before moving on to the largest war this session, I'd like to briefly touch on who the players thought performed the best. Qing was tipped to have had a very good game, as well as Florence, Yemen for their efforts in the Hormuz-Gujarat war, and surprisingly even Hamburg was named for their recovery after last session. But the winner this week, with 116% of the vote, was Brittany. In terms of the sneak of the week, we have a joint winner in Serbia and Moldavia. They've managed to top the charts this week for betraying their ally of 150 years and siding with their enemies. An anonymous source has provided us with the agreement signed. We now go to Brandy, who is playing as Wallachia.
This whole session has been a string of betrayals. I have been Jesus Christ, betrayed by Judas for 3 silver. I'm sitting there, I hear Hakesi and Cell, they're talking to each other. Moldavia, of course, and Serbia as the players. And they're talking, they're like, are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? And I know in the back of my head, it's happening. God remembers, God does not forgive any traitors. That's all I have to say. That is my closing remark.
The final war I'm going to be talking about was the Florentine attack on Bavaria. In this war, Florence declared on Bavaria, who was backed by Britain, Hesse, Switzerland, and the Bretons. At the same time, the Norwegians attacked the British, taking Hesse and Britain out of the war. It was a back and forth war, with Florence just having the edge, until the entrance of Rum onto Florence's side ensured victory, leading to the unconditional surrender of Bavaria. Now with us, we have Florence.
I feel like it went very well. I achieved 2 out of my 3 goals. The third goal is to kill Genoa. The first 2 were to kill Switzerland and Bavaria.
For context, Genoa was his ally and helped him fight Switzerland and Bavaria, thereby sealing his own fate. We'll have to see next session if he can survive the Florentine onslaught. This war was highly successful for the Florentines and resulted in the deaths of both Switzerland and Bavaria. I'd like to take a moment to remember the fallen nations this session. Well, that was incredibly insensitive. Just roll the time lapse.
Mexico should cease to exist.
How are you even still here?
Hello, my children. I must give you a message. Subscribe to the social streamers for eternal salvation.